my channel. My name is Cora, for those of you that don't know, and my service dog is Miss Lola May. She's a Brindle Great Dane. She's not in the room right now. I'm in my filming room and it's a small pink couch, and so she's on the big couch in the living room. Anyways, today is a new series and I'm so excited to introduce it to you. The next few videos that will be put out, instead of vlog styles, it will be strictly about this series, and hopefully it will continue through the years, but of course I'll put in my regular content here and there. Anyways, this is a series I'm really excited about and I've been working really hard on, and this is the first episode, and it is my favorite actress of all times. I adore her, and we're going to be talking about the one and only Fran Drescher. Fran Drescher is a proud Jewish actress who got her start and had her big hit and debut in the 1977 film Saturday Night Fever. Drescher was born Francine Joy Drescher. She was born September 30th, 1957, and she was from Queens, New York, or she is from Queens, New York. Fran had kind of almost an ordinary life with a really cool job. She ended up marrying her high school sweetheart, Peter Mark Jacobson, when she was 21 years old, and they were best friends and they love each other till this day. Now, Fran, like I said, had her big film debut alongside John Travolta in the 1977 film Saturday Night Fever. And she started doing smaller roles after that, and it wasn't until her and her husband in 1993 wrote the show The Nanny. And you guys might remember The Nanny if you watched Nick at Night, if you're my age, and you would watch Full House, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and The Nanny, all in that. I think it was pretty much that order, and it was the best thing ever. Now, Fran played kind of almost an authentic-ish version of herself. She made sure her character was Jewish, because a lot of Jewish actresses were never considered pretty because they were Jewish. And that is so far from the truth. That is just such a stereotype, and Fran really wanted to prove that through The Nanny, and she did. And so that's so crazy to think you have to prove yourself through a stereotype, but she did it, she did it. And she also really she hired a bunch of LGBTQ plus designers for the show, and y'all need to go look at some of these outfits that Fran Drescher wore as Nanny Fine. Her character was Fran Fine, which I think is really funny. So she was really doing a lot in the 90s. I mean, the 90s were the 90s. We'll say that. So she was really trying to break a stereotype that had been cast over her as an actress and other Jewish actresses. And that's still something that goes on till this day, which is really frustrating. And she also really wanted to hire and contribute to the LGBTQ plus community, and she did that through fashion, which was so incredible. Now, with The Nanny's newfound fame and fortune came paparazzi, news, journalism, which kind of ended up being their worst nightmare, Peter and Fran's worst nightmare, because back in 1985, they were victims of a horrific crime. And obviously, journalists, investigators, paparazzi obviously found out about that through research and just her name and connected the dots. For Fran, it was truly like living the crime all over again. This was a brutal crime, and I am going to talk about what happened. So if you are triggered easily, please click off of this. It really is awful. January of 1985, Fran and her husband Peter were at home and having dinner with one of their friends. And all of a sudden, two armed men break into their Los Angeles apartment. And Fran let out kind of like a primal scream, as she describes it. And they didn't know what to do. You had these two armed men in your home, and it happened so fast. And immediately they restrained and tied up Peter. The other man ransacked the home, while the main perpetrator proceeded to assault S.A., Fran, and her friend in front of Peter and made Peter watch, which is so traumatizing and horrific. It's awful. And one thing a lot of people don't know about Fran is that she has a photographic memory, and she remembered watching a TV show, I think it was Dateline is what she said in one of her interviews, and she said she remembers investigators saying, try to remember the clothing tattoos, skin color if you can, especially if they're masked. You might notice things that you normally wouldn't notice. Like just really try, because your body's gonna want to go into like shock. It's gonna want to disassociate, do all these other things. And Fran was able to stay calm, and she was able to use her photographic memory and memorize things about these perpetrators. And she did that so well. After they left, they called the police. Fran and Peter called the police, and she was able to assist in the arrest of these men by doing a accurate sketch artist sketch, I guess. And she was able to depict kind of what the men looked like with what she had to work with in her mind, because I do believe they were covering their face somewhat. But she did that so well, and they were masked. And like, to think about that, like, do you know how smart you have to be to do that? Like, that's, and like to go through what she went through, that's insane. So like that's like, she's very strong like that. So Fran and her friend, they were able to get justice, and so was Peter. And they sentenced the main perpetrator that essayed Fran and her friend 114 years. And then the other perpetrator was actually his brother. And I don't know the exact amount of years. I've seen Fran only mention a couple of times the main perpetrator that assaulted her and her friend. His sentencing, I did not see how much the brother got sentenced to, but I'm sure it's very similar. But I don't know if he participated in any essays. Not only that, the main perpetrator that assaulted Fran and her friend, he had been just like newly released on parole, like very new, and he went on a rampage of doing these things. So he had absolutely no remorse. Like, this was totally planned, and he just went on a rampage. That's like how you can have to like describe it. It's awful. But Fran was able to get herself, Peter, and her friend justice, which is just so admirable, I feel like. And through that, like I said, fast forward to 1993, all these journalists, all of these news stations and articles, radio stations are finding out about this crime that she went through. And I'm not going to repeat what this host said on a radio show. If you guys know who Howard Stern is, he owns quite a crude radio show. And I don't mean like, making like, like guy jokes. I mean, that's what it is. But his one interview I think probably everybody has seen is the Anna Nicole Smith interview. She was kind of like the 90s, 2000s version of Marilyn Monroe, who, if you don't know who Marilyn Monroe is, I have my shrine of her over here. I love Marilyn Monroe. But Anna Nicole Smith was a dancer, kind of like an adult dancer, and she was very voluptuous, very beautiful, just like Marilyn was. And Howard Stern went in on her body right there when she was sitting there, right there in front of her, with all these other nasty men in that room, and it was truly awful. So you can imagine what Fran's interview was like after this came out with Howard Stern. And Fran was able to be strong and to redirect it to, I did this, I got him arrested, I participated in his arrest, I am so smart, I have a photographic memory. So she handled that interview very well. But for her, it was like living the entire trauma all over again for her and Peter. And it took such a toll on her and Peter's marriage. They actually ended up separating and getting a divorce December 15th of 1999. Now, around the time of her separation and towards the end of her marriage and the end of the nanny, she was starting to get sick. For about 2 years, she was searching for answers. And she was going to doctor after doctor. And one day she gets a phone call and she finds out she has uterine cancer. Yeah. So she finds out she has uterine cancer, and she calls Peter and she tells him what has happened. And he said that all of his trauma, like, because during this time of the nanny, he resented Fran. He was controlling. He was telling her what to eat and wear because of how much of a toll it was taking. And it also led to their divorce. And he was like, when he got that phone call of Fran that she had cancer, it was like all that went away, and it was just about getting Fran better. Even though that was his ex-wife, he wanted to get her help. And not long after that, Peter came out as gay. And Fran was more than supportive of him, obviously. They are still friends to this day. They love each other very much. They are best friends. But for her and Peter, the uterine cancer was a huge scare because she had to get a radical hysterectomy. And for Fran, that was her worst nightmare because she always wanted children. Even in the show, The Nanny, Peter and Fran, when they were still married, named two of the children after their baby names that they wanted, which were Gracie and Brighton. Now, through all of this, Fran never sought help for her assault in 1985. She never really got help for that, or after her uterine cancer, she really never got therapy until much later when her and her husband co-wrote another TV show called Happily Divorced, and it premiered from 2011 to 2013. And it was basically about her marriage almost, about her, but more cleaned up, TV censored. And it was about her and her husband being divorced and living together, and she starred in it playing herself. And I think she was a floral shop owner, and her husband told her he was gay. Like, they were divorced, they lived together, and he goes, well, Fran, I'm gay. And it's honestly a really good TV show. I remember watching it late at night. I loved it. And I think it was just, you know, a happily divorced couple who were best friends, which is pretty much their relationship till this day. They still attend red carpets together. They go on events together. They take vacations together. And she even sets him up on dates. How cute is that? Like, can you imagine, like, your little ex-wife, like Fran Drescher, first of all, with this thick New York accent, like with her big hair, being like, I found someone for you, like, hold on, let me get their number. Or, you know what, are you single? Let me give you my ex-husband's information. Like, can you imagine, like, going to a bar and, like, you're seeing a cute guy and, like, your ex-wife sets you up? Like, can you imagine that? Like, that's crazy. And sorry, I have my cat and she's making my face itch. Hi, Kisses. This is Kisses. She likes to interrupt. She's my third child. Can I get back to filming, please? Okay, good girl. Nope, don't touch the tripod. She likes to lay under the tripod and make it shake. Around this time, Fran actually did decide to get help. And she started going to therapy, and she was given the diagnosis of PTSD, and which made sense because of what had happened to her. And around 2020, Fran had lost her dog, Samson. And Samson, she describes, was like her soul dog, truly. He was like her child, and she had had dogs before. She had Pomeranians. They'd be on the set of The Nanny. Sometimes you might have gotten a clip of them, and she loved them. And so she has always been a huge dog lover. And we all have that one dog that weighs heavily on our hearts that we have lost, and that was her dog, Samson. And with the loss of Samson, and along with her PTSD, she was going through some of the worst grief she had ever felt. And she even describes it as dropping to her knees and praying for God to send her an angel to help her get through this time. Actually, her prayers were answered. She was sitting at coffee one day with one of her girlfriends, and that whole day and leading up to this day, she was seeing dog flyers, rescue advertisements, shelter advertisements, and she really thought to herself, okay, you know, I'm gonna go look. And she spent a few hours with one dog at this shelter, and the dog's name was Snowy. And she's almost kind of like, it doesn't say exactly what breed she is. She's kind of like a white, almost husky looking, has two different colored eyes, maybe a shepherd crossover, something like that. She's beautiful. And she spent a few hours with Snowy and asked if she could adopt her, and that shelter was not gonna let Fran's status of being a celebrity get in the way of her adoption process. So they went and they checked out her home, which obviously it's Fran Drescher's home. It was incredible. You could tell she was a dog lover, and I can just imagine her just like floating around like a little bee, being like, and this is my room, and this is where the dog shall sleep. And you know, just, it's like thinking about almost like the true like nanny fashion of like getting a dog, I feel like. And she was more than excited, and she got okayed to adopt Snowy, and she ended up changing Snowy's name to Angel Grace, which is so sweet because it's like she was sent an angel, which was Angel, and then naming her middle name Grace, like the child she always wanted. And I think that's so sweet. And through this, her PTSD started to get better with Angel, because Angel was doing things that like she just didn't know were possible by helping with her PTSD in different ways. And she was able to go out on more red carpets. She was able to go out on more brunches. She was able to feel more comfortable going into hotel rooms by herself. She was able to feel more comfortable walking through these big, massive airports, which if you can imagine, like having people run up on you and being what Fran had gone through seems very traumatic. And with her status, you know? And I'm gonna put in some photos of Fran and Angel here. And obviously Angel has been on a couple of red carpets and she's beautiful. I love seeing the photos of Fran out like walking her service dog off duty and her sweats and stuff. And she's just like, she's just like, service dog handler like the rest of us. She's just, trying to get through every day, which I think is so incredible that she is able to have the assistance and that we are able to, as like disabled people that have service dogs, are able to almost kind of relate to like a celebrity on that level, because it's like a bond like nobody really understands that you have with a service dog. And to think about like Fran Drescher, one of my idols that has a service dog, mind-blowing for me. But that is the story of Fran Drescher and Miss Angel Grace. And I am so happy that Fran has found a companion to help her through every single day, help her attend things that she would find harder to do on her own and she could not mitigate on her own. So that truly makes me happy that she has her furry little assistant and they look so happy together. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Our next video is going to be really good. I don't think you guys would expect that. Some of you guys might know who it is, but I'm really excited about that. Comment any questions down below and I will answer them. Okay, all right, you guys, make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I will also have that link down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and stay blessed and enjoy.